When Cave Evil surfaced in 2011, it stopped me cold. I'd never seen anything like it. Our household was cutting our teeth on our first batch of Fantasy Flight designs with their slick illustrations and rich color gradients, and here was a big box of all black components with all white art, looking like a year's worth of flyers and album covers for thrash bands. I considered buying it, forgot about it, and the next time I looked, copies were going for hundreds of dollars because the first printing sold out fast. Nate Hayden, Matt Brinkman, and Jochen Hartmann had pulled off a beautiful coup in indie board game design. They decided to just make a game they wanted to play, trusted that, and created a cult legend. Their people across the world heard and responded. They'd made the hit. Hours and hours and hours of good, clean fun. Quote, in Cave Evil, each player takes the role of an ancient necromancer. Located deep within an earth, their necropolises have now emerged, each seeking the darkest pit, the location of all evil. The dark wizards must build minions with precious resources from their lairs to send forth and destroy, or dig further tunnels to locate other creatures, resources, or to ambush another sorcerer. The game is won when only one remaining necromancer stands. The necromancer can either be destroyed by combat, or an enemy minion may venture into their lair and crush the wizard's shadow power, a chthonic crystal. But an even greater darkness may befall the players. As they build and destroy creatures, the dark pit absorbs the shadow flame and may awaken the ultimate cave evil. During our talk, Nate described it as a weekend game. Clear the calendar. Tunnel doggedly away from what is fashionable and optimized. Battle your friends. Stop for pizza. Make some music. Battle some more. I'm jealous of this group, frankly. Following is my talk with Nate Hayden. We discussed the group's decision to reissue this game during COVID and how the act of design is driven by these long friendships and the process of constant evolving play. This is the Lord Chief Rock of Breakup Gaming Society, here with a very special guest interview. I managed to make contact with Nate Hayden. Nate is also, like me, a Nate, also lives here in Colorado, and I found through a random outreach on Board Game Geek is one of the designers of an underground, and I mean underground, board game called Cave Evil, which came out in 2011. Nate, welcome.
Thank you very much, Nate. Excited to do this.
As am I, and you don't know the story. I'm going to tell you why. So in 2010, in my household at the time, me and my wife at the time and my stepkids were all starting to become hobby board gamers. And this is a special time because at that point, you go from playing casual stuff to diving into the Fantasy Flight catalog, and every new game is like discovering a new genre of game, and it's just exhilarating. And at that point, I was like, how much of this stuff is there? And I'd be watching new releases. And I remember when your team's game, Cave Evil, came out. Now, please correct me here. Cave Evil is a multiplayer board game which takes place underground in a former necropolis where necromancers have raised Army of the Dead to tunnel and not only fight each other, but fight demonic forces. Do I have it right?
That's sounding. This is what they are definitely doing that, but they are all demonic forces in a sense. They're not fighting demonic forces; they are the monsters.
I got the takeaway when I refreshed myself on the description that this is an infernal gang war.
Yeah, it in a sense is like each wizard is a black evil wizard, and they all have the ability to form troops through their magic, and they just go at it for until one's alive, or there's some sort of end game that is destroyed or done.
That's right. It's last necromancer general standing. That's one thing I'm remembering now. So when this hit my radar in 2011, I have to tell you, I was riveted because, first of all, one of the games we were learning at the time was Chaos in the Old World, which is about commanding the 4 ruinous powers from the old fantasy Warhammer setting to do battle in the land of men and destroy it and cover it with plagues as collateral damage. And then I saw this, and I'm like, and I was just riveted by its utter commitment to theme and production and style. I remember looking at the entirety of the all white graphics on all black field, and just before even I knew what the game was about, I thought, man, I need this. But I waited, and apparently in the time I was waiting, Cave Evil, and you must know your audience, Nate, sold out, and up until recently, you couldn't get a hold of a copy if you wanted to.
It did sell out rather quickly, and it took many years to bring it back.
And so here we are in 2025, and I caught up on it. I read an excellent write-up from a Board Game Geek user whose handle was KP, I think, who went to an event in San Francisco and met you.
Oh, yeah.
And talked about how cool it was because you have re-released the game. There are expansions, and you have a new thing out called War Cult. So here it was. I thought this game was long buried, and it popped, and then you popped back onto my radar, and I saw that it was re-released. So I guess I'd love to hear, Nate, how you and the other creators behind this project decided to bring it back from the dead, or the deader.
Exactly. That's kind of the long story, because do you want the whole story or just a partial? Like, because obviously, like the partial is that, yeah, we just we decided to put it out, and it was kind of the midst of COVID, and there was a lot of like strange periods in that time where you weren't quite sure what to do or what not to do as a publishing outfit. And we thought it would be best, just to put out Cave Evil. But the longer tail of that is we were thinking about doing that kind of prior to 2020. And we just thought, before we have all these new expansions that we have, all these new maps, we just need more Cave Evil in the world, and the only way to do that is just to make more games, obviously. But you don't know if you can raise the money. You have no idea. But so we just went after it, and just wanted to get another printing of this out here before we started making more stuff for it. And that was sort of the impetus to get it all done. And the shorter tail was that it was sort of like, what do we do in this COVID type of world? And that also seemed like the best thing to do, to kind of go back to the beginning when we first started and kind of understand what this new printing world is now like in this time, and like what this decade is different than the last decade. What's this? How do you do stuff in this decade? And so why not try to do that with Cave Evil? Try to just begin there again, see what the pieces are like. The pieces of this printing world are like now.
And what are they like?
Well, it's just different. I mean, I say that to anybody, when you print things, every year is totally different than the last year. So like when you start printing in the beginning of the year, you can't get the exact recipe of what you got in the previous year. So there might be a guy that might be gone from a place you're working with that was really good at a particular subject, and he's just not there anymore. So you got to make adjustments. But with the decade, it's like the decade in itself is a completely different way of things than the previous decade. And so trying to just figure that out, and then COVID hitting, and you're like, oh man, it's really different now. And then we just kind of keep going on with the years, and each year presents its own sort of issues, and you're like, okay, this is how we're doing it this time. But we thought, to do Cave Evil again was a good way to learn, like, where is the industry, and like, where are we? And it was a good way to test it all out and just kind of do that. So it was fun in that way.
And it sounded like your fans and acolytes were still down in those caverns, just waiting for you to come back down and mosh.
Okay. Yeah, I love the people that play the games, man. It's just when you see them start to get into it, it's just so cool. It's just so cool. And what's this really weird thing is that I feel like people who've made it, like Matt, Johan, and I'm a fan too. It's weird. It's like this weird thing that I can be on the outside of, even though I'm a part of making it or something. It's really weird. So when I'm playing a game or whatever, I'm just playing the game. Like I don't even know that I made it. It's just sort of like, oh yeah, let's just play this game. So it's cool to meet to put it out there, and there's still minions out there ready to go. It's just awesome.
If the game is immersive enough for you that when you're playing it, you actually forget you're the guy who helped design it, I'd say you probably made the right game for you and achieved your vision.
That may be the case. I don't know. Yeah, very good point. I don't know. I don't know if you ever get to fulfill the vision totally, but it's really a treat to be able to play it and not think about like having any history with it. It's really a cool feeling. It's like I can just enjoy it on its own level, and kind of see where, some fun strategies to do. It's fun to explore myself.
Yeah, I'm glad you talked about that because I've never got to play it, and I know there will be people listening to this segment who have never heard of it before now. So if I'm going to give you the floor for a while, and can you paint the picture of what a battle down in these netherworlds can feel and look like and how it works? And also, if you feel like it, talk about the new material you've made for it and how that's going to change this demonic multi-way beatdown beneath the earth that you
Oh gosh. Uh it's funny, just to let you know, Matt's in this interview too. We were working, and he happens to be on the phone, so I'm going to try to say this well for Matt as well. But I would say, and this he may have like walked off, so I don't know if he's still on the phone or not. But I would say to think about Matt and Johan and I were aiming for we I don't know, I call these kind of games like weekend games or something, like when or when you're growing up and you're playing like Risk or just these really more big hulking games that take hours, and you're just with your buddies and you just have this crazy experience, you're just maybe hanging out for the weekend playing like Axis and Allies or something like that. I think I was aiming for that, but then like Matt's aiming for that plus what Matt is aiming for, and Johan's like what he's aiming for. So like these three kind of ways we all wanted games, it all met, and like in this game, it's that kind of experience. The strategic kind of thing is just that weekend, like hanging out with buddies, having a great time killing each other, and then figuring out really long range decisive plans. We wanted that kind of thing. So if you like, oh, you know what, I got this great idea, I could go and just do this thing, and I could crawl around to the side of his cavern and then just drop this bomb in there, and you try to make it pay off, and it creates these wonderful story arcs. And that's just like what we set out to do, and like what we feel that we tried to capture in that. And I don't know, there's a lot of other games that we were loving at the time too, that we are just that might make its way into helping it out. I remember there's some great games, like one game, there's nothing like it, but we were playing just a million of those like games like Dungeon and Talisman and the Prophecy and Runebound, and just that isn't like the game per se. That's more an adventure game. But with that type of tempo those games tend to have, it's like this sort of chill tempo game in which you're just like, let's go and try to fight the dragon guy, just you're trying to build your characters up, and there's like that nice pacing in those games. Some people, that may be way too long for some people, but I find those to be like weekend night, just like, let's just go, man. And that we were just all aiming for that type of experience, and in our strategic gameplay that we were aiming for. That's just a roundabout way of saying, I think, what we were aiming for. But in the game itself, you're amassing resources that will let you build creatures and items and spells. And in the Cave Evil game, you are in the role of a necromancer, an evil wizard that has this power to create things, and you're just trying to design ways in which to win the end games or destroy your opponents. And it is in a lot of ways a very simple game, but also very, very unusual circumstances that can come up that lead to very oddball results that I think are pretty charming at times. But yeah, those are the types of things I get when I play it, and I hope it imparts in other people that play it.
Yeah, when I was reading about it, it sounded like there was just a lot of fun. Take this, take that, just chaos. And does that come from just the amount of ways you can combo all the items and beasts you make, or are there events in the game? Where does the roller coaster? What drives the roller coaster?
I would say a kind of card play. I can bring events in the game, absolutely, but the card play is kind of, I wouldn't call it like a solid combo kind of idea, but there can be these things when you pair them all together. Of course, are combos, wonderful combos, and there's really like strange. You can find clever ways to like just adorn yourself with just all these different clothings and jewelry and just all these different like things and just clothing oriented ways, so you can craft your people to be quite vicious and very hard to beat. And in that way, I see it also as a kind of chess game in which it's very simple. You're trying to kill the king, but you're doing it in this sense of, the knight all of a sudden can do this other thing, like you put the knight out there, but then now the knight has this other thing, and it just then you add more to it, and then the rook it's very chess-like in a way, in that sense too, through the card combinations and ways you can play the cards.
Except, yeah, all the chess pieces just came right out of a Toxic Holocaust video.
Exactly.
So,
absolutely.
What I'd love to hear, Nate, if you feel like it, is there now this can be going all the way back to playtesting up to last week. Could you talk to me about sort of end run or climax or just crazy reversal? Like, is there a session for like that just stands out to you as when you just all looked at each other and you're like, man, that was wild?
Gosh. Yeah. There's been a lot of those. I think in Cave Evil we just fell in love with just kind of doing it and making it and what it could do. But like when I really just like things began to become like in a different way is what after we made the first version of Cave Evil is when we started to make these other versions of it, and we've gone to just so like many different dimensions with the gameplay. I can't believe we've played it this long and not really put anything out. It's just unbelievable to me that time just passed that so quickly. But we've been doing these different variants, and in those variants, there's just times I just can't. I have just absolute memories that are very important to me that just would occur during some of those games. And but a funny one was, and this would have been on War Cults. I mean, we got so into all the different things you could do in war cults that we our turns were getting so crazy long, like just insanely long. So we would like we would let it happen because we're kind of like that weekend cart sort of people. We don't care. It's like if some friend's going to take an hour to take a turn, everyone else is just doing something else, and so it's like a nice. It didn't bother us, but we had one game in which one of the turns taken was an hour and a half long.
Okay.
Meaning for one single person just to get to take their return was an hour and a half. And yeah, it had to happen. That game was tough. And that guy won the game.
So I need to hear what kind of slow rolling thunderclap happens during a 90-minute turn. And while he's taking this turn, are you just sitting there with a mounting feeling of dread as you see him chain one like demon to one weapon after another? What the hell's going on during an hour and a half?
Well, yeah, it was it was just crazy. But you know, I'm a big war gamer, and that's actually not unnormal for like a Napoleonic game or something where you're dealing with a lot of tactical things. And our game is a war game too. It's like a strange war game. I think it shares a lot with both board games and war games. And it's not uncommon for very long turns. I mean, if you're going to play, a tactical, you know, just I'm just trying to think of some Frederick the Great thing or something. You'll get locked in these turns and in a war game in which it will just take a very long time. Like a war game group is unusual. If you first of all have a war game group, you're lucky to find that many different weirdos. And so the temple of those games are just like you take your turn as long as it takes. All right, I'll take my turn as long because it's like a huge chess game of you might be doing some World War II, Leningrad thing or just some sort of it's like this forgiving thing about length of turns, and then you have like board games which are you got to get done, man. You took more than 30 seconds, and there's like these two different ways of playing. And so we're probably that sort where like, if the game warrants that long turn, you just take it. And so in that sense, it was one of the most intense turns I've ever seen. I think we were all engaged in what that guy was doing the whole time. Barring like going and eating a little food or something, it was a crazy turn, and he ended up winning the game. But that's sort of the spirit of kind of a war game in that sense. Yeah, there's been some really just incredible moments. There's a game map we haven't put out yet that we've played so many times that it just has so many memories seared into it, and I can't not forget them. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's when you talk it about being a weekend game and me learning that it shares more than just surface or cosmetic comparison to war games. And when you say war games, are you talking hex and counter stuff or tabletop miniature games or both?
I would say with Cave Evil, it probably shares a lot with Hex and Counter, but it uses these squads, so you're really only running like 6 things. That changes with War Cults, where it just straight up becomes a war game. But the Cave Evil is that Hex and Counter tactics, with just a limited number of things you could really move, and yeah, so it is its own thing. I see sometimes other games that are a little bit like it, but I can't quite say it's like this or like that. I don't know. It's strange. It's strange.
It sounds like what it really is when you said you were talking about games like Dungeon. That was the first one I ever saw that was anything like that in 7th grade. And it was just like you said. I was some new friends invited me over, and time vanished. I don't think we left the basement. And maybe, yeah, you stop once, get a pizza when you realize you're spinning out a little bit because you didn't eat. But then, time vanishes and everyone gets totally immersed in what's going on. And it sounds like it very much lends itself to that epic patience. Hey, we're all pals. We're going to slug this out and have fun with it as long as it takes. And especially where I'm struggling for the words here, where people want to come to a resolution or find an answer rather than just simmer in the demonic experience of it all. That's really cool. I went and looked at the website. It looks like, once again, you can buy the base Cave Evil game. When did that become available for purchase, and is it still?
I was late last year, and we have a few copies left. I think it's not many, but a few.
Nice. So the second run's performing, it sounds like, just about as well as the first one did.
Yeah, I can't measure it. I can't remember how the first one went. How the first we've done it 3 times now, and each time seems about the same. I can't quite say because it was so long ago, those other ones, but it seems similar.
And for anybody out there who hears this and was like me in 2011, who thought this looks rad and then missed it and doesn't want to miss it this time, where should they be going?
Store.cave-evil.com.
Awesome. And not only your base game, but mentioned war cults a couple times, which I saw in the catalog there. But how does war cults fit in?
Well, war cults is when we finished Cave Evil, we began to play just all the time, like these never-ending games of it, and we're just trying to figure out, what are we doing? We just keep playing and adding these creatures and adding these sorts of ways to play it, and through all that testing and all that playing, we figured out every rule we were doing. We were like, okay, so what is this, a gigantic game that we're playing? And with war cults, we kind of were able to jot down all those rules. So war cults is sort of a lifestyle game in which it's, along those lines that you could play this in a sense of advanced squad leader or something. If everyone if everyone kind of is familiar with all the different ways you can twist and turn it, you could go off in these crazy directions. And War Cults is just noting all those rules and all those ways to play and offering rather than the Necromancer, the Warlord, which the Warlord works different from the Necromancer, and but you can use all the same cards and so on and so forth. And so that is offering the Warlord character, the War Cults.
It sounds like your design ideas just arise organically from play, like you're a freeform jazz band.
Well, we're all from a noise background, which is a lot like free jazz in a sense. And I mean, Matt's on this call, so he'll kill me. But so I want to just reiterate, we're also like this noise thing and jazz in this sense have a similar thing where you've got to make choices immediately, and that to me was it's an interesting way to make music. It's not it's a way to make music, and it's a way to do some fun stuff. It's definitely fun, but I think when we're designing, there's got to be a little of that way that goes in there, and that is probably when you're testing and you just know we got to just change it to this direction right now, and it's just, you understand you got to do that. And so it's hard to say like organic or I don't know what that is, but it's just a way to design. You just get in there and start working with the engine and just start figuring it out. and maybe we do in some sense work in that free jazz sense or something, but I think there's more to it too. You got to make a good song too. Like, so there's like the heavy metal part as well. You have to have constructed verses and choruses and stuff. So it's a little of both. I don't know if that makes any sense.
It does. Does it? So does the crew that made this game, you and your co-designers, do you all also make music together?
Yeah, together in different various forms with different people. We definitely are still focused on music too. It's you place it in ways that you can. There might be some time to focus on that and some time to focus on games. And I think they're both important in our lives. I think.
Nice. And so I'm going to be sitting here, like looking at your website, being like, Nate, are you going to miss it again? But it comes down to, one of the things that happened when I moved out here to Starkville is just to stay stimulated with the hobby. I mostly became a solo player, and have been doing more and more solo forward designs. But one more time, if you don't mind, telling people where they should be looking at this inspired underground creation.
Store.cave-evil.com. And Nate, this is funny because you say Nate, and I'm like, is he talking to me? Is he talking about you? But I'll send you a solo game we've made. If you have it or not, I've got a couple solo things I can send you.
Oh no, yeah, no worries. Yeah, actually, I am curious. I noticed you do have other non-Cave Evil designs out there. It looks like you're always making something.
Yeah, we try to stay. We try to keep going. There's just fun things to do. There's just like these interesting things you can do. I love gaming's awesome in that sense, and I don't know. The solo things are just this other fun thing you can do. I don't know. Just yeah.
So speaking of other fun things, what's closest to the finish line in terms of a design ship for the next one?
Well, I put out an economic game earlier this year in this summertime called Rocky Mountain High. I'm gonna be going back to that probably to do a little bit more print run of that. That was more of a smaller game that I wanted to just put out. So I'm going to make a little bit more of those. So that's probably next as far as focus. But in the design ways, we have like many more Cave Evil things. But other ideas I'm enjoying testing. They're just in various forms of being molded together yet. They're kind of far off right now.
Nice. Well, speaking for myself, I can't tell you what a cool surprise it was just to, do some offhanded networking on a board game platform and run across this game that stuck somewhere in my mind for the last 15 years. And now here we are, and I get to hear about it. So I only want to say, hey, thanks for taking the time to chat. Hats off to the other gents on the team. I think they are all gents. Pardon me if I messed that up. And I just want to say that this has been absolutely killer running across you and getting your time like this. So I appreciate you.
Oh, heck yeah, Nate. No, this was a great fun. And thank you for reaching out. I like making those connections and yeah, it's badass. You got another Nate in Colorado doing a show. Let's do it. So thanks for having us.
Hey, man, I mean, what's life about if two dudes in Colorado named Nate can't get together and talk about Cave Evil? Come on.
Exactly.
And yeah, man. So thank you again. Salute to the team. And of course, like we say at the end of the show, may you fight long and well.